Well, hello. Good afternoon. Welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast. What's up, everybody? Hope you're having an excellent Friday. We've made it to another Friday, another work week in the books, or just about there to be said. And a beautiful Friday it is. And I am not going to lie to you. I have plans the second we walk out these doors, and I am very, very excited. So I hope you are very excited for the weekend as well. Very excited for the series ahead against the Arizona Diamondbacks. We'll check in with our counterparts at PHNX and talk to Derek Montia at 1:30. Very excited to chat with Derek. I don't think actually I've had a chance to talk to Derek since the 2023 NLCS, so I'm sure that will open up some wounds that have healed, I think. But we have a lot to get into before we do that. So a series victory. Before we do that, let me tell you about our friends at Bet365. Of course, our presenting sponsor for today's show. Whatever the moment, it is never ordinary at Bet365. Hello, everybody. I appreciate that. Well, thank you, Barbara. That's very kind of you. I was in desperate need of a haircut last week, and so I needed one very, very badly. Very kind of you. Hello to you, Barbara. Hello to Molly and Barkley's Life. Hello to Philly Sports Enjoyer and everybody else that's in the chat. Thank you for joining us here. And yes, Philly Sports Enjoyer, the headline of the thumbnail today I thought was appropriate because the Phillies dropped Game 3 of the series last night to the Washington Nationals 4-2. They do win the series. They take 2 of 3. It's the second series in which they've won against the Nationals this year. And in fact, it's the second series in which they've beaten the Nationals in almost identical fashion, where they win the first 2 games and they drop the third game of the series. And not only that, but the series happened in a similar fashion, right? Because they win Game 1 in extra innings. They win Game 2 in regular, pretty convincing fashion. And then they did not win game. They win in a walk-off. I apologize. They win Game 1 in a walk-off. They win Game 2 in pretty convincing fashion, and then they lose in Game 3. The Phillies just didn't have it yesterday. And I think that that's going to happen over the course of 162 games. But one moment in that game, I think, really kind of changed the complexity of the game, and it was the Bryce Harper error at first base. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But I do want to start with what the headline was today and what the thumbnail was today, and that Taijuan Walker deserved better. And quite frankly, Taijuan Walker's been really good this year. We talked a lot of crap on Taijuan Walker, and I know I've said this a couple of times throughout the show, but Taijuan Walker has been excellent this season. And I don't know if it's a renewed rejuvenation. I don't know if it's just he's fully healthy for the first time in 2 seasons. I don't know exactly what it is, but Taijuan Walker, after 6 starts, has a 2.54 ERA. They've limited the damage to what Taijuan Walker could face. Now, in the start against the Cubs, he didn't pitch very much. He was really struggling with his command a little bit. He was laboring. He threw a lot of pitches in the first couple of innings, and they got him out of the game. But he's now thrown 28 1/3 innings over 6 starts, so he's averaging less than 5 innings per start. But he's been really good. The whip's been fairly high at 1.3, but he's limited damage. He's walking out of danger. He's doing a good job of, when he does get into some trouble, of working out of it. And the thing to me that really stands out is his pitch usage has changed, and I think that that's helped him in a lot of different aspects. So last night he ends up going 5 2/3 innings. He gives up 4 runs, but only 1 of them were earned because of the error by Bryce Harper last night. He scattered just 4 hits. He walked 3, so he did give up a handful of base runners. But I actually thought he was pretty darn good last night for a majority of the start. And as Barbara points out, above average MLB starter from your 5th starter is that's more than you can ask for. Because I think we are a little bit spoiled with how good the rotation has been over the years, whether it be the 2010, 2011 teams with Roy Halladay and Cliff Lee and Cole Hamels and all of that. And then let's be honest, like I think this is a pretty good pitching staff. And Aaron Nola has been underwhelming for a majority of the season, but this is a good staff with Wheeler at the top. Sanchez continues to improve. Luzardo's been incredible. He's going to get the ball tonight for the Phillies. We've been a little bit spoiled as to what like a fourth and fifth starter has been. And Walker was not good last year, a 7 ERA, but he's pitched above expectations. And because I think the fact that the expectations for Walker over to start the season were nothing. And he's pitched well above expectation. And maybe he's like expected to not be as good as what his numbers are. Like his expected ERA is really closer into the high threes than it is into the mid twos. Expected batting averages are higher than what what his actual batting average is. But that's playing the game of like your eyeball test versus what the computer tells you. The thing that I've really enjoyed about Taijuan Walker so far this year is he's almost kind of reinvented himself as a starter in terms of his pitch sequencing, in terms of how he's getting outs. We know that Taijuan Walker is not throwing hard anymore, and his average exit or his average fastball velocity is just 92 miles an hour, which is actually up from a season ago, but it's not what he was. Let's take 2018, for example. He was in the 65th percentile throwing about 94 miles an hour. When he burst onto the scene back in 2016, he was averaging about 95 miles an hour. That's just not who Taijuan Walker is anymore as he gets into his year 32 season, and that's okay. Assuming he can keep the ball, in the yard, assuming he can keep the ball down, assuming that he's not giving up a ton of hard contact, which is things that he struggled with in 2024 over the starts that he made. But his ground ball percentage has been decent. He's at 42%. He's not giving up a ton of hard hit contact, and when he is, he's being able to get away with it. And again, his pitch sequencing has changed, and that to me, I think, is the biggest thing. He's gone to the cutter much more frequently, and especially over the last two starts, than he had in any year prior, and I think it's been effective. And he's used it against both lefties and against righties. He's thrown it 72 times to left-handed hitters. He's thrown it 56 times to right-handed hitters. And what he's able to do is burn it off the outer edge to the lefties and then bust it in on the hands to the lefties, throw the cutter in on the hands to try to generate weak contact, and he's running it away from right-handed hitters. And so he's able to spot it in multiple different locations, and he's using it to success. He's now thrown it almost 26% of the time throughout the season so far. He did it again last night, 26 cutters on 85 pitches. And the thing that's really standing out to me is opponents are only hitting 125 against his cutter. Like he's generating weak contact, and when he is giving up hard contact against that cutter, it's going for outs. And maybe that's where you get into the conversation of, is he getting a little bit lucky, which is plausible. But the numbers will tell you what the back of the baseball card tells you is that his cutter has been a very successful pitch this year. He's not throwing it overly hard, 87, 88, 89, but he's using it effectively. And he's using it effectively in spots to where he's now able to generate some more whiff. It's the second highest whiff rate percentage pitch that he's thrown this year so far, and he's getting whiffs on 23% of the cutters. And he's also using it as his put-away pitch a third of the time, 33.3% on the dot. He's using it as his put-away pitch. He has been really successful with the cutter. But the number that jumps out to me with the cutter the most is the difference in opponent batting average this year so far through his first couple of starts compared to his last year. As I said, a 125 batting average this year against the cutter. Last year, 435. He wasn't missing any bats with the cutter. It was a useless pitch last year. Quite frankly, the cutter and the splitter last year, which are the two pitches he's used the most in 2025 so far, were both pretty useless pitches. 435 against the cutter, 380 against the splitter. Even with expected batting averages being less than that, he still was struggling with those two pitches. Guys were hitting, as I said, 380 on the splitter, a 650 slug. 435 on the cutter, an over 1 slug. Not a 1 OPS, a 1 slug. They were two useless pitches last year, and now he's using them super, super effectively. Last year, he only got 9% whiff on the cutter. As I said, he's getting about 23% this year. This year, he's at 88% average exit velocity on that pitch. Last year, he was over 91. Everything that he's using the cutter and all the stats tell you that it's going in the right direction, because I think he's spotting it well. As we talked about earlier in the season, he's throwing a lot of first pitch strikes. He didn't do that against the Cubs, and it's why he struggled to get, I think he only ended up going 2 or 3 innings in that one and threw 30 some odd pitches in the first inning. But he's getting ahead in counts. He's staying ahead in counts. He's keeping within his realm. and he's limiting hard contact, especially on that cutter. And then the second pitch, the splitter, which again was really bad last year, but the splitter's always been Taijuan Walker's calling card. Even when he was throwing hard, it was fastball up, splitter down. And that was the arm action stuff was really effective early in his career with the Diamondbacks and with the Mariners. Now he's not throwing as hard. The arm action's important, but the location's just as important. And when he uses it is just as important. So he's throwing the splitter almost primarily to left-handed hitters. And last night, the Nationals, with the inclusion of the two switch hitters in Josh Bell and Keibert Ruiz, threw 7 guys at him that were hitting from the left-handed side. And he was pretty effective with the splitter as well. He threw that 25 times. He didn't generate a ton of swing and miss on it, but he was able to keep it down. He was using it as a change of pace pitch, and that's where he was, again, generating some weak contact on the splitter. Last night, he used the splitter and the cutter 51 times on 85 pitches. That's well more than half. I can't say enough good things about how good Taijuan Walker's been for a majority of the year. And again, especially when you play the XY axis of expectations versus reality, because the expectations were here. They were down on the floor, right? They were like on this disgusting carpet that we have, which, by the way, we need to get vacuumed. This place is gross. Anyway, the expectations were down on the floor. And even if the reality is like baseline, as Barbara pointed out, like if it's baseline throughout the rest of the year, to me, it was like if this guy gives you a 4 over the course of 25 or 28 or 30 starts, that's a win because it's a 3 ERA dip compared to last year. Right now, he's at a 2.5, and I don't think he's going to pitch a 2.5 throughout the whole season. But if he gives you 3.5, 3.8, that's a objective win from anything that you're getting from Taijuan Walker. So again, kudos to him in keeping the ball down and keeping the contact pretty minimal. And again, when he is giving up hard contact, he is seemingly getting away with it. Last night, he had 11 batted balls that were under 94 miles an hour. And I've been on the record as saying I think hard hit contact to me is 95 and above. So 94, we're splitting hairs a little bit, but to me, it's not as necessarily hard hit contact if I give you a tangible 95. He gave up 11 batted balls of under 94. 7 of them were under 85 miles an hour. He gave up a lot of weak contact last night, including the first play of the game, which, my goodness, this Phillies starting rotation has to be amongst the league's elite in terms of fielding starting pitchers. Taijuan Walker is an excellent athlete. Christopher Sanchez is a really good defensive starting pitcher. Ranger Suarez, when he's back, to me, is the best defensive starting pitcher they have. And Zach Wheeler's won Gold Gloves. Really, the only one that I think is below average, and maybe he's average, is Aaron Nola. But this is a really excellent defending starting pitching rotation. But he gave up a lot of weak contact last night, and I have to tip my cap. Now, in the 6th inning is where things kind of unraveled for Taijuan Walker, and they weren't entirely his fault. And it really kind of stemmed from the 3-base error that Bryce Harper made at first base last night. Keibert Ruiz hits a ball down the line, and that's a play that Bryce Harper makes 99 out of 100 times. And by the way, Barbara, I know you brought up kind of like Bryce Harper getting his head straight a little bit. We'll talk about that in the second segment of today's show. It's a ball that Bryce Harper makes the play like 99 out of 100 times. I have raved about Bryce Harper's defense as a first baseman. He is an excellent defensive first baseman. He's been better early in his first base tenure than I could have ever expected out of him. I still think Bryce Harper has a chance this year to be in the Gold Glove candidacy now that Christian Walker is out of the National League. But Bryce Harper doesn't make that play, and things spiral from there. And you could certainly say you need Taijuan Walker to battle in and get out of that situation. But Taijuan Walker was great through the first 5 innings, and at that point, I think he was just giving up. I think he had kind of hit the end of his lead in that start. And so that play really kind of spiraled, or lack of play really kind of spiraled things out of control for Taijuan Walker last night. He ends up giving up 4 runs, but only 1 of them are earned. And so I'm expecting Bryce Harper to make that play way more times than he doesn't. But I do want to talk more holistically about the Phillies defense this year so far. And I said this to a buddy last night or a couple nights ago. We were chatting about the Phillies defensive miscues that they've had. Trey Turner's had some poor plays. Johan Rojas has had some poor plays in center. And this isn't like a direct result of Bryce Harper making an error, because again, I think Bryce Harper is an excellent defensive first baseman. But I said to him, I think this team has 3 players in their defensive spots that are top 5 defenders at their position. I think Bryce Harper is a top 5 defensive first baseman already. JT Realmuto still is a top 5 defensive catcher. And Bryson Stott is a top 5 defensive second baseman. I think Bryson Stott, along with Nico Horner, will be the 2 guys that are going to battle for NL Gold Glove winners at second base for a long time to come. But the rest of the defense feels like it's lacking. And even guys that are considered average defenders, like Alec Boehm, to me, is a baseline defensive third baseman. Nick Castellanos, while yes, he has not made an error in a billion games, is a baseline defensive right fielder. And that's enough for me, because he was a really bad defender in right field and has gotten better over time. And he's become a baseline average defender in right field. But this team feels like it makes a lot of defensive mistakes. And so I went and looked at the numbers. They're 27th in team defensive runs saved this year at a -13. That means only 3 teams as a collective unit have less defensive runs saved as a team. They have 14 team errors, which almost seems low considering the fact that I think official scoring has been kind to them this year so far. And I think official scoring across baseball has been kind to most defenders. They probably should have closer to 17 or 18. They're 14th in outs above replacement with an average of 0, which means outs above replacement thinks they are the average team in baseball. They're 25th in outs above replacement at shortstop at -2. They're 20th with a 1 in center field. Unsurprisingly, the best position that they have so far in outs above replacement is second with Bryson Stott. He's 6th in baseball. Well, the position is 6th because Edmundo Sosa also plays there, and he's an excellent defender as well. But as a team, they're at a 3 at second base outs above replacement. So if it feels to you like this team makes a lot of defensive miscues, you're right. They do. Jim talked about it on Wednesday. They are an underwhelming defensive team with some excellent defensive individual players. And I'm not going to harp on the defensive side of things for Bryce Harper too long today. He made an error. And I've always said, like, I can live with physical errors. Guys, you're not going to have 1,000, a 1,000 fielding percentage throughout the season. And if you do, that almost tells me that you're not taking enough chances. But last night's error spiraled things out of control for the Phillies. I'm not going to harp on Bryce Harper. I just think that it's a physical error. I would much rather physical errors on the field or at the plate or on the base paths than mental errors, because mental errors drive me crazy. The things like trying to stretch a single into a double, knowing that the left fielder has an above average arm. The things like being in a poor defensive positioning where you need to take a drop step and instead you take a step in and a ball gets hit over your head. I would rather take a physical error over a mental error every day of the week. So I'm not going to sit here and lambast Bryce Harper for one error. He's been an excellent defensive first baseman. It's just with situationally last night, I think it did cost the Phillies pretty significantly. All right, let's pause for just a moment. We are going to talk about Bryce Harper on the other side because I do want to have a conversation about Bryce Harper. Offensively, I don't think he was great this month. And we'll talk about kind of what the difference has been and what the expectations are for him heading into the month of May. But before we do that, let's pause for just a moment and tell you about some of our friends here at PHLY. All right, let's start with our friends over at Monarch Money because, listen, saving money is difficult and financial responsibility oftentimes can be difficult. And whether it's about saving for the future, saving for a rainy day, your kids' college funds, a house, whatever the case may be, we all have financial goals in mind. And some of us, including myself, sometimes struggle to hit those financial goals. Right now, my financial goal is to start saving some money for my 6-month-old future. And I understand college or trade school or whatever the case may be is still 18 years away. But as any parent will tell you, that time goes by in the blink of an eye, and you want to start saving as soon as you can. And Monarch Money is the best budgeting app possible to help you with those financial goals. It's a complete financial command center for your accounts, your investments, whatever your goals are. They're going to be with you every step of the way. So don't just manage your money. Start building wealth with 50% off your first year for all of our PHLY Phillies listeners. You can do things like track your spending, track your savings, talk about your investments. You can focus on what matters most to you, making your biggest life goals a reality. It's the finance tool that people will actually love. And they were named the Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025. So get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use the code PHLY at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com. with the code PHLY. All right. Glatt hair restoration. Johnny Marks has been talking to you about Glatt for years now, and there's a reason why. His results don't lie. He is a living and walking testament to the work that Glatt hair restoration does. But if my words aren't enough, you can take John's results as example. But let me tell you about Glatt anyway. Glatt is an incredible service if you're looking to defend your hairline, whether it's to restore the hair that you lost or keep the hair that you currently have. And that statement right there, I think, is what's important about Glatt, because they're not just going to push you to hair restoration right away. You're going to get a one-on-one consultation, 100% personalized hair care, step-by-step goals. And that may not mean hair restoration right away. It may mean some more smaller steps, like a TED treatment or whatever the case may be. They're going to monitor your hairline and monitor exactly what you're looking for. And then if you do need hair restoration, they're going to walk with you every step of the way, from the initial one-on-one consultation to the hair restoration process to a follow-up care. They offer cutting hair loss prevention treatments, medications, and so much more. So if you'd like to learn more information and are ready to defend your hairline today, head on over to glatthairmm.com, or you can call or text them at any time at 610-980-4000 to get started. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli here. This is brought to you, of course, by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I do want to take the time to talk about Bryce Harper, but our friend Derek Montia from the PHNX Diamondbacks show is going to be coming up in about 7 minutes' time. So I'm going to save the Bryce Harper conversation for a little bit later in the show, because I think offensively, Bryce Harper was underwhelming in the first month plus of the season. I do want to take some time, however, to talk about or to say hello to some of our friends in the chat. Ronnie James, hello. K-Red, Player One in the Mad Cats, Barbara Carroll, Molly and Barkley's Life. Jay Flo, our resident Arizona Diamondbacks fan, who I'm sure is here to continue to gloat over the 2023 NLCS, and rightfully so, because Jay Flo came into the chat in 2020. Joey, you weren't here in 2023 when we did the NLCS, but K-Red. K-Red's always been in the chat. We love K-Red. But Jay Flo has been, came into the chat and puffed out the chest a little bit and said, Diamondbacks are winning this series. And we all went, whoa, hold on here. And Jay Flo was right. Diamondbacks did win the series. And Jay Flo has been our resident Diamondbacks fan since. But hello to everybody. Barbara Carroll, as I said, Philly sports enjoyer. I appreciate you all for joining the chat today. Ronnie says the words well and Taijuan Walker are odd. Yeah, you're right. Our expectations with Taijuan Walker this year were pretty limited. And instead, he's pitched really well so far. And I think he actually deserved better last night. And listen, I think that there is merit to say get out of a spot or, limit the damage, which is fair. As a major league pitcher, you still do have a responsibility to limit the damage. But I just think he was kind of at the end of his tenure last night. And it just unfortunately transpired the way that it did. Love you too, K-Red. Appreciate you. All right, what's going on in the chat? So we're just going to kind of buy some time. Not buy some time. I don't want to mail a segment in, but we do have Derek Montia coming up in just about 5 minutes. Barbara says Orion needs to be better. Nobody ever gets on him. Barbara, you and I have talked about Orion before, and I know that you have harped on Orion's success or lack thereof at times. Orion Kerkering has been in a weird spot. Oh, boy, did we lose ourselves? I don't know. All right, real quick, I just want to check. Can everybody hear me still? Because if they can hear us, we'll figure out the video portion of it. As long as they can hear us, we're still good. As long as you guys can still hear us, we're still good. So we'll take just a second. We'll pause. We'll talk about Orion Kerkering in just a moment. May just be a camera thing, which is totally fine. Happens all the time. But Barbara, to your point, you and I have talked about Orion a lot, and I have come to the defense of Orion Kerkering. All right, you guys can hear us. I've come to the defense of Orion Kerkering quite a bit, and I think Barbara's justification about Orion is a fair point. I think that at times, Orion Kerkering's numbers have looked better and have been good, right? I'm not going to say they're bad. Like, he was good last year statistically, and so far this year has been fairly good statistically, except for the ERA, which is high. But last year, was a 2.29. And I think Barbara's argument was more along the lines of struggles in big spots, right? Good in the low leverage spots, struggles in the big moments. And I came to his defense because I thought he was pitching well, and numerically he did. But I think there is merit to say there have been struggles from Orion Kerkering in big spots this season, when called upon to with inherited runners, or called upon to protect a lead, or called upon to protect a tie. There have been times this year where Orion Kerkering has struggled, no doubt about it. And I think the one thing with Orion Kerkering that I have come to the conclusion on, and I think some have come to the conclusion more quickly than I have, and you could say that the two-seam or sinker is this pitch. I think Kerkering desperately needs a third pitch. And I don't necessarily mean that he's used the sinker two-seam thing. Like, I think it's more of a two-seam. It's labeled as a sinker. But I think he needs something with vertical drop. And whether that is a changeup or a splitter or something along those lines, I think he desperately needs another breaking ball or another off-speed pitch that he can use as a separator between the fastball and the sweeper, because the sweeper is an excellent pitch. And big thank you, by the way, to Joey for handling that very quickly. Joey's done an excellent job since taking over as of the producer of this show. The sweeper is an excellent pitch. It's got a lot of horizontal break. It's his bread and butter, right? But the one thing that he has struggled with this year so far with the sweeper is throwing it in as an uncompetitive pitch early in at bats. He got a lot of chase in that. You remember when he came up in 2023, got like a cup of coffee with the Phillies, made a couple of appearances, and wowed us with his ability to get chase on that sweeper specifically. He got 31% chase in a small sample size in 2023. Last year, as was kind of expected, he got less chase because it was a full season, but it was still almost 28%, and I think largely due in part to the sweeper. This year, in 2025, he's down to 22%. He's in the 13th percentile of chase rates. And so what's happening is hitters, especially righties, and I think he's having this issue with righties specifically, hitters are just sitting on the sweeper early in the count because he's throwing it to try to generate chase. And when he's throwing it to try to generate chase, guys are just sitting on it. And so therefore he's down 1-0 or he's down 2-1, and that's where he has to come into the zone with the fastball. And the fastball location at times has evaded him a little bit, or he has to use the splitter as get me over strike. And that's why right-handed hitters he's seen 27 right-handed hitters. He's given up 7 hits to. He's allowed 10 base runners. He has a 1.88 whip this year. He's not throwing enough first pitch strikes. He's not generating any kind of chase. And then when he has to come into the zone, that's when his barrel rates are getting bad. Like, he's getting hard hit at 46%. His barrel rates are at 13.5%. Both of those are within the bottom 1/4 percentiles, like in the bottom 25 or worse. And so I think all of this is spiraling for Orion Kerkering at times this year. And I think it does play into, I don't know, I want to call it as simple as throwing more first pitch strikes, throwing more competitive pitches, but I think it does kind of have merit. His whiff rates across the board are down, or at least on the sweeper, I should say. His whiff rates are down. Last year, 31%. This year, 24%. Expected batting average and expected slugging and things like that are up. Hard hit percentage is way up. His fastball hard hit percentage this year on 56 pitches is 71%. That's where his struggles are coming into play. It's not a bad pitch, right? A sweeper is not a bad pitch. It's still a good pitch, but and this is actually kind of surprising to me. He's throwing 67% first pitch strike, but he's falling behind in a lot of counts, whether it be 2-1 or 3-2 or whatever the case may be. A lot of hitters are kind of just sitting on that sweeper. All right, so we will talk about Bryce Harper in just a moment. Derek Montia from the PHNX Diamondbacks Show is going to join us in just a moment. Barbara, appreciate the comments about Orion Kerkering. Before we get to Derek, let's pause for just a moment, and we'll tell you about some more of our friends right here at PHLY. All right, some technical difficulties here. We'll tell you about some of our friends in just a second. But again, we'll talk to Derek in just a moment. Joey, we good? All right. Let me tell you about our friends here at Parx Casino because, listen, sometimes ad reads tell you about a hometown casino or whatever the case may be. Parx is legitimately my hometown casino. There's no lie. I grew up in Bensalem. I live in Bensalem still. That's where I've spent a majority of my time. And it would take me about 4 minutes to get to Parx from where I'm currently located in my apartment complex. But it's not just about physically being located in Bensalem. I love Parx Casino because of the BetParx app. You can play all of the games you can play at the casino right in the palm of your hand. They have pop culture slots, roulette, cards, dice games, whatever you want to play at the casino. Sometimes you don't want to leave your couch. Sometimes you just want to hang out and chill and veg out, if you will. Well, you can still play the games that you love at Parx Casino on the Parx online casino with the BetParx app. It has the games you love, whether you're at home or on the go. You can play the pop culture slots, as I said, things like Goonies and Breaking Bad, whatever TV show or movie that you love, there's a chance that Parx Casino and the online casino app have you covered to play those games right in the palm of your hand. So download the BetParx app and create an account today. You'll receive an offer that you simply can't pass up. New users will be eligible to receive up to $1,000 back if you're down in the first 24 hours after signing up. BetParx Online Casino is available to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Michigan residents. Terms and conditions do apply. Parx Casino, this is how you win. You must be 21 and over. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, the presenting sponsor of today's show is one of our friends at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And it's why 90 million users have been on the app worldwide because they live stream over 780,000 events each and every year. And that's why they are the pioneers of live in-game betting. You can get offers across the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 different sports. And how about this? Breaking news from Bet365. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5, win or lose. So all you have to do is sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10 and place a $5 bet to get $150 back in bonus bets, whether you win or you lose. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast here, presented to us by our friends over at Bet365. Joey, we all good with Derek? All right, let's bring him on. The man himself, the mayor of PHNX, and the host of the PHNX Diamondbacks podcast, and somebody I've not had a chance to talk to since the 2023 NLCS, and I'm sure the dig will happen pretty quickly. Derek Montia. Derek, what's up, my friend?
I'm not a lot, man. Thank you for having me. I just I wore the most upsetting thing that I thought I could wear for a Phillies fan, which is this merchandise that came out during the World Tour when the Mets played the Phillies, because inexplicably both of your logos are on the same clothing items, and even though it doesn't make sense, it delights me to no end. It also upsets one of our guys in the office who's from Wales, so that's also.
Well, I will say this to you, Derek. I think there are a lot of Phillies fans that, for right or wrong, blame the London trip for the demise of the Phillies because they weren't the same team after they went to London and played the Mets. So you might be onto something.
It's weird because I still think about the time that the Diamondbacks opened their season in Australia, and it was one of the worst seasons in franchise history. So there might be something to this idea of teams that start in a different country, but get off to a slow start or don't make it. That'd be great for us, considering the Dodgers in Chicago kicked it off this year in Japan. So
yeah, the two teams don't seem like they're having any trouble scoring to start the year so far.
Not at all.
All right, so Derek, the Diamondbacks 17-14, similar record to the Phillies, and this is a team, as we've kind of come to expect with the D-backs over the last couple of years, that has no issue scoring. And I have been, I like watching, I'm not going to lie to you, I enjoy watching the Diamondbacks play, even though they've crushed the Phillies' soul in 2023. And it's been an enjoyable team to watch at the top of the lineup. And the two guys that are kind of been the spark plugs, especially since Ketel Marte went down, are Corbin Carroll and Geraldo Perdomo. Corbin Carroll has just been unbelievable for this team. And I went and looked at his Baseball Savant pages, and it's almost like the red and blue bars have flipped. So I want to ask you, what's been different for Corbin Carroll this year compared to last year?
His batting stance. He completely changed his batting stance, his approach at the plate. Last year, he had one of, if not the flattest swings, and that's statistically in baseball. So a lot of his struggles in the first half of the season were based on his swing. And the change is fairly radical. We're not talking about like, his footwork being different or, a wider stance or, like he's holding the bat differently. One of our guys in the office yesterday, Bo Brock, compared it to kind of like Big Papi, right? Like he's just, it's just a different stance, right? And so I think so far, a lot of the success that he's experienced has been due to that. I know that he's been able to handle the high fastball, which was kind of his kryptonite at a point last season, fairly well. But also he's kind of come down to earth over the last, week or so. So the numbers early on in the season look like he was already going to be an MVP candidate for this year. But it with time, people are figuring him out a little bit more, it feels like. So he's just an excellent player. He's just a guy that can create. Same thing with Geraldo Perdomo. That's a guy that he has the most walks amongst all MLB shortstops. So Perdomo just finds a way to get on base. He's incredible with runners in scoring position, where the rest of the team kind of is subpar in that category. And again, these two guys are the reason why this team right now is at this record.
So I brought up Ketel Marte, and I saw a social media post with him flying to Philly. Any chance that he does get activated for this series?
Yes, 100%. I mean, Ketel was hitting in backfield games. He hit 2 home runs in a backfield game just the other day. I know that they were kind of being cautious with him, especially due to the fact that this isn't the first time he's had an injury with his hamstring. So the last thing they want is to experience what he did before, which was coming back too soon, re-aggravating it, having to miss more time. I wouldn't be surprised to see Ketel play a bit more DH than they intended on him playing now, but there is a really good chance that he's going to be active for this series. He might not be activated for game 1, but this is huge for the Diamondbacks. The Phillies are a huge competitor when it comes to, just everything, right? The wild card chase, just in general, you guys have always been a very good team year after year. So this is important for the Diamondbacks. And I think riding the wave of beating the Mets 2 out of 3, you're going to see them kind of pull out all the stops, I think, to try to win this series in Philadelphia.
So offensively, obviously, things have gone well so far. One guy that's been one of the most interesting dynamic players this year for the Diamondbacks is Eugenio Suarez. 10 home runs, a 4 home run night, the 19th player to ever do that. And he's also hitting 193. From afar, I just look at it and I go, this feels like a very almost Adam Dunn. I apologize. The Mark Reynolds, who was a Diamondback for a long time, feels like one of those two guys type of seasons. High strikeout, low average. Kyle Schwarber even before a couple years ago. What's kind of gone on with Suarez that, high home run number, but also a sub 200 batting average so far?
Gino came out of the gate super hot. The comparisons on Major League Baseball or on MLB.com and other websites were, him to Aaron Judge in the first week of the season. But last year, Suarez went through this exact same thing, right? He had some struggles in the first half. It got to a point where fans wanted to see the Diamondbacks go in a different direction. A lot of DFA conversations came up in regards to Suarez, maybe his age, maybe, his time had finally ran out. And then he was inexplicably one of the best players in baseball in the second half of the season last year. Him and Corbin Carroll both just suddenly turned it on around the end of June and became completely different guys. So
they monstered Alec Bohm. That's what happened. They took Alec Bohm and Trey Turner and monstered them.
They brought him into their hearts and their souls. I don't know, and I think that's the problem is, right? Like we as Diamondbacks fans, as people that have watched this team, we've seen him suddenly become a monster like he did in that game where he hit 4 home runs and the Diamondbacks still lost the game, right? But that's the big problem with Gino is the consistency and the fact that what's hiding inside of him, right? The fact that after last season that at any point, it doesn't need to be the halfway point of the season. At any point, Gino can unplug, wait 15 seconds and plug himself back in, and then all of a sudden become this, hitter that is one of the most dangerous hitters in baseball. I think that, maybe it's the fact that like throughout his career, if you look back, Gino's always played a ton of games. He's always played 162 games, it feels like, when he was with the Mariners. And, again, that's not something that's going to happen in a Torey Lovullo lineup, but maybe just due to the fact that they don't really have another option over at third base. That's a great option. Maybe he's just playing too much. Maybe he could use some time off. And here in town, the big murmur is about one of the Diamondbacks' top prospects, Jordan Lawler, and when the Diamondbacks are going to call him up. And again, the more Gino struggles, the more that conversation grows, the more that audience gets louder for, Lawler to come up and get some playing time at third base.
So let's talk about the offense has been good, it seems, at least from the outside looking in. Sure. Pitching rotation and the bullpen both kind of been in the bottom third in terms of ERA and things like that. And the bullpen specifically, as somebody who covers a team with a really bad bullpen right now, I'm curious. So they send Joe Mantiply back down to Reno. Justin Martinez hits the IL. AJ Puck gets transferred to the 60. What's the immediate strategy for this Diamondbacks bullpen now? Like, for me, especially, like, I look at Justin Martinez and that kid's a stud. Like, he's just a stud closer. I was going to say in the making, but I think we're pretty much there at this point. What's the immediate plan for this bullpen, losing a big-time name in Martinez and then a vet who's just been really consistent in AJ Puck to the 60?
Well, I'll tell you, this goes back to the beginning of the season when the Diamondbacks lost Jordan Montgomery to Tommy John surgery. Montgomery completely failed, acquisition as far as this team is concerned in his time as a Diamondback. They were going to put him in the bullpen this year, and then he had to have Tommy John surgery. So they lost one option there. Kevin Ginkel also was injured, as well as Kendall Graveman, who they brought over during, the offseason in free agency. Things were a mess. And the Diamondbacks had to basically look to Shelby Miller, who at the time didn't seem like he was going to make the bullpen, but was a bubble guy in spring training, had a good spring training, had a lot of people talking about him. And then they go outside the organization, and they add Jalen Beeks. And let me tell you, I'm not even joking. I have no idea where this organization would be without these two guys. They would literally be without a left-hander now that they sent Mantiply down and AJ Puck is on the 60-day IL. Jalen Beeks is the only left-handed arm in the bullpen right now. They did call up Jose Castillo, who's a left-hander, but again, he just got promoted and called up for the first time. So we don't know what we'll see out of him at a major league level. But Shelby Miller has been lights out for this team. He has not allowed an earned run this season. And in yesterday's game, Shelby Miller has moved into the closer role. And in regards to this team and what they were going to do without J Mart, what they were going to do without AJ Puck, right now, Shelby Miller seems like a godsend, an amazing, addition to this team that has really just excelled this year. The changes that he's made to his game, although slight, have really allowed him to be effective. It doesn't go out there and won't blow you away at times with, his stuff the way you would see out of Justin Martinez, but just a veteran that knows how to get the job done, knows how to go out there and get outs. And so far, it feels like one of the best moves that the Diamondbacks have made in regards to their bullpen, because quite frankly, no one has been pitching as well as Miller, and he deserved the opportunity to go in there and close out games in high leverage situations.
It's funny, the underrated moves sometimes that bolster a bullpen or bolster a team. It's almost like a couple years ago when the Phillies signed Jeff Hoffman, who was who was kind of on the doorstep of going to pitch in Japan, and the Phillies offered him some guaranteed money, and he said, "All right, I'll take the chance." Became a dominant, high leverage reliever for the Phillies, and parlayed that into a $35+ million contract to be the Blue Jays closer. So sometimes, and it's why bullpens are so streaky. But sometimes you get these I don't want to say unknown, because Shelby Miller obviously has been in the league forever, has been with the Diamondbacks before. But you get
Very
these
well known by
unheralded
Diamondbacks fans.
Yeah, I have to imagine, especially considering the trade that was, obviously giving up Dansby Swanson for that
Right.
move. It's probably a little bit of a humbling experience to be back in Arizona for him.
I covered him at that time. I've covered him now. I think that there's like just some peace to him. I think that there isn't the expectations to live up to, which was kind of part of that trade, right? And then things just didn't go well for him as a starter. He eventually makes this move to become a reliever, and honestly, like adding a secondary pitch that is really good, a little breaking stuff was all he really needed for him to be effective in this kind of relief role. But yeah, I think overall it's nice for him to have this positive chapter with the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's like you don't want to leave an organization and their fans feeling like you scammed them or that you screwed them over simply by being part of a trade. But unfortunately, that's what happens in sports at times. We tend to blame the player for not performing. We blame the front office. We just get mad at everybody for the situation. And, at the end of the day, I'm sure Shelby Miller is as mad that it didn't work out. And I'm sure the organization is as mad that it didn't work out as the rest of us. But this could end up being a really, really nice, closing chapter or second,
Sure.
Second edition here for Shelby Miller with the Diamondbacks. And right now, I don't know what the Diamondbacks would do without him. When Jalen Beeks was acquired, it felt like an unnecessary move. Mike Hazen the GM was asked about the move and why they would need to go out. The narrative about this team at the beginning of the season was that they had too much depth. What were they going to do with all these pitchers? Where were guys going to go? Who was going to end up in the minors? Who were they going to send down? Who were they going to option? And instead, a week into the season, the Diamondbacks found themselves at a pretty level playing field with everybody else in regards to depth. And by the end of the month of April, losses due to injury have kind of decimated this team, right? So like those acquisitions, looking ahead, knowing that you can never have enough pitching, ended up, being able to save this bullpen and give this team arms at a time when they ended up really needing them.
Famous last words. We have too much depth. Yeah, good luck with that.
Oh, God.
Over 162 games. Derek, I do want to bring something up to you before we let you go, and I so appreciate you taking some time to join us today. You have been the secret keeper, it seems, for the Arizona Diamondbacks City Connect jerseys. And yes. Joey, if you don't mind flashing them up so everybody can see them, this is one of the cleanest. Sorry, the other one. That's another one. That's the Marlins' new one.
It's clean. Yeah.
But the one of the cleanest City Connect jerseys I have seen in a long time. And Derek, I have been such an advocate. And there it is. There's the new City Connect. It is gorgeous.
Yes.
I have been one of the biggest advocates for like almost a play the hits type of thing. And when you have an organization that has fans, even outside of the organization, people that say, you should go back to this color, or you should go back to this scheme, or you should wear this jersey. And when everybody clamors for the late 90s, early 2000s Arizona Diamondbacks purple, the team finally did it. This is a beautiful jersey.
Yeah, and it was a hard secret to keep because I wanted to shout it from the rooftops. But what's funny about it is, as you can see there, this is quite different from their other City Connect, their Serpientes one, which was about as plain and simple as you could get for a baseball jersey, right? When I was told rumors about this jersey, these rumors were from different people, right? I heard pinstripes. I heard it was kind of like a vest, but kind of wasn't. I heard it was going to be snakeskin. I heard it was going to be gradient. And I was like, what is it going to be? And I was like, there's no way it's all these things. And it is. And it somehow works. And it's kind of wild to me that it does. But yeah, the team has just been, for some reason, really reluctant to go back to the purple and teal, which, to be honest, when you walk around, like I was in Las Vegas for their minor league game. I walk around the concourse at every Chase Field game. I'll tell you this much. I see more Randy Johnson purple jerseys and more Randy Johnson and Luis Gonzalez like vest purple jerseys than I do see of the current players.
Sure.
Those jerseys are beloved by this fan base. And like you said, beloved outside of it. The number of like one of my favorite interactions was one time I met Westside Gunn. He's a rapper for Griselda. And he saw me wearing the purple Diamondbacks hat, was like, bro, that is incredible. And he went out the next morning and bought it and then wore it at his concert.
That's awesome.
Like, the impact that for some reason this, that old school stuff has on people. And it's gorgeous. It's just a good color combination. It's weird that we went away from it. It felt like it was very much when Ken Kendrick took over as an owner of this team, he just wanted it to be different. He wanted it to be his own thing. And probably, the biggest mistake this team ever made was abandoning that color scheme, because
I think there's so much merit to that, like you said, where it's like a fan base just adores it, and then other fans take into it. I just think about,
Right.
I'll ask you really quickly, when you think about Allen Iverson, the Sixers jersey that comes to mind for a lot of people is the Sixers black jersey, right? With the script Sixers across the chest. And they've been so hesitant to go back to it in their statement jerseys or whatever. And all Sixers fans are just saying, just use the black jersey. It's a beautiful jersey. Right. So I get your point there.
All right. Yeah. And I mean, again, it's busy. I know some people, it's a little bit divisive, but I got a chance to see it like on the players with the pants that they're going to wear and the hat. And it's a cool look, man. I can't wait for them to debut. And again, I think it's going to be, one of the iconic kind of looks the Diamondbacks have ever had.
Derek, you are the best. Please check out the PHNX Diamondbacks podcast, 2:00 your guys' time today. So 5:00 our time, I believe.
I'm sorry, my AirPods had just died on me while you were in the middle of saying that.
No worries.
What was that again?
2:00 today. 2:00 for Arizona time, at least 5:00 our time.
Yes, sir. 2:00 today. We'll be previewing the Philly series. Our guy Jesse Friedman is going to join me today, and we're going to talk a little bit about Ketel's return and some more fun stuff as well, including the Philly Fanatic having a fight scheduled with Blooper.
Yeah, get your bets in now.
Cannot wait.
Derek, can't thank you enough. Thanks so much for taking some time to join us today.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you having me.
There he is, Derek Montia from the PHNX Diamondbacks podcast. All right, we will come back, talk a little bit more about those jerseys. I promise you we'll get to the Bryce Harper talk. Joey, I'm going to apologize in advance. We are going to go into overtime today. We got a lot to talk about. But first, let's pause for just a moment and tell you about some of our friends here at PHLY. All right, Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks. You know that. You know the jingle. You know the slogan. But did you know they're also the place with the helpful hardware home service team? So whatever it may be, a leaky pipe or an air conditioning issue, HVAC problems, plumbing, whatever the case may be, think about Ace when you're thinking about your next home improvements or home renovations or home repairs that you have to do, because they've got the pros that you can trust in every situation. Again, from plumbing to heating to cooling, that is the team that's going to keep your home humming all year long at Ace Hardware Home Services. Listen, they bring the helpful home. So you know they're the helpful hardware folks, but they bring that helpful that you love from the store right to your front door. So head on over to acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started with your next home project as soon as today. Again, visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com. All right, one more for you today before we wrap things up. Shady Rays, one of my favorite companies in the world. You know I tell you about my Shady Rays all the time. I got my shades on. I got my sunglasses on to protect my eyes because I get migraines. I get headaches from just the smallest glare off the sun. And I can't recommend Shady Rays enough, and neither can 300,000 people who have rated them 5 stars online. Durable frames are important to me, but the more important thing, the crystal clear optics with the polarized lens that you can get in just about any style. So whether you're looking for a sleeker look, a sportier look, an aviator look, the more traditional sunglass look, they are going to have every style and every color scheme that you could want, and you're going to be able to find the pair that perfectly matches you and your style. But don't worry about it if you end up losing your pair. If they take an unexpected hit or they go missing, Shady Rays has the best replacement protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by their lost or broken replacement guarantee. And think about it, if you buy online, sometimes you don't love the thing that you love them on the website, but you don't love them or they don't fit properly. Don't worry about that either, because you can return or exchange your pair for no worry whatsoever up to 30 days. And how about this? PHLY viewers and listeners, head on over to shadyrays.com and save 35% off your pair of polarized sunglasses when you use the code PHLY, and find out why over 300,000 people have rated Shady Rays 5 stars. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast here. In about 5 minutes, we're going to hit overtime. Again, big thank you to Derek Montia from the PHNX Diamondbacks pod. Love chatting with Derek. He is the best. I forgot to ask him. I wonder what the high score was behind him. He looks like he's set up in an arcade, which is so cool to me. Like the box arcade games. I don't know if it's an actual arcade or he just has a couple of those like in their studios, but that was a sick setup that Derek had going on. All right. I scheduled this out for segment 2. I ran a little bit long in segment 1, as I tend to do. That's my bad. I apologize. But we may need to have a conversation about Bryce Harper. And before we go anywhere, before we say a word about Bryce Harper's struggles in April, and he didn't have the greatest April, I am going to say this. I have no concerns over Bryce Harper. I have no concerns or long-term complaints about what Bryce Harper is going to do this season. He did not have a particularly strong month of April. That is a period. That's a statement. That is a fact. He was not particularly strong in the month of April. He hit 223, and his average dropped from 272 to 234 in a 10-day span. He really struggled in the final 10 days of the month of April. That is a fact. I also will say with pretty certain confidence that I expect Bryce Harper to bounce back in the next month or by the summer months, whenever the case may be. I fully feel like Bryce Harper is going to be fine. I'll give you the bad, and then I'll give you the good. He had just 4 hits in his final 30 at-bats in April, and he's 5 for 34, including last night's game. So over the last 34 at-bats, Bryce Harper's hitting 147. And I think for the most part, these struggles can be separated between the computer numbers and what your eyeballs tell you, which isn't the greatest thing in the world because sometimes you just want to say, what did he hit last night? Was he 0 for 4? Was he 2 for 4? And you just want to be able to look at those numbers and say it was a good night, it was a bad night. But I do think there is merit to be said about Bryce Harper's expected numbers compared to his actual numbers and why his expected numbers are so much better than his actual numbers. His expected batting average this year is 264. He's actually hitting 235. His expected slugging is 488. He's actually slugging 417. And why is that exactly? Well, it's, I think, in part because he's getting semi-unlucky in certain situations. His average exit velocity, his hard hit percentage, his barrel rate percentage, and his launch angle sweet spot percentage are all within the 65th percentile or better across baseball. He's hitting the ball hard and he's hitting it into outs. He's barreling the ball up hard and he's hitting it into outs. Hard hit percentage is high and he's hitting into outs. Doesn't excuse everything. I think there's been poor at-bats at times from Bryce Harper. The one that I would turn to with immediacy is the one against Edwin Diaz after Bryson Stott hit the 3-run home run to bring the Phillies within 1. It was a terrible at-bat. I think he's swinging over top of a lot of breaking balls. I think he's swinging through a lot of fastballs. I think he's pressing a little bit. I agree with you, Barbara. I think he's pressing a little bit because of the fact that he is putting together good contact and not getting a ton out of it. I also don't tend to disagree with you there, Filthy. He's going with a determination to swing a lot. And it's why, to play into the the bad of it, he is swinging and missing a ton. His whiff rate right now is over 35%. That's in the 5th percentile of all of baseball. That's just simply not good. I do think that his whiff rate is something you can live with because it's something that Bryce Harper has been a part of throughout most of his career. You've seen him throughout most of his career have a high whiff rate. He's been in the 10th percentile or worse 3 times since joining the Phillies, and he's been really good with the Phillies so far. Before we go any further, I will tell you more about those stats in just a second, but I do want to say we're heading on into our overtime portion of today's show. And you can catch us, of course, here on the on allphly.com. You can catch us on YouTube. But thank you to all of our streaming services for being a part of the first hour of the show. So he's been in the 10th percentile or worse 3 times as a Philly in terms of whiff rate. But this 35% whiff rate that he's currently on through the month of April would be on pace to be his worst of his major league career. I do think he's also making contact less. And of course, that it plays in part with whiff rate. He's making contact less both in the zone, 78%, and out of the zone, 40%, than his career averages and what he did compared to last year. Now, I think the good, as I brought up, I think he's hitting the ball hard. I talked about his hard hit percentage, his barrel rates, his exit velocity are all within the upper echelons of baseball, at least average or better across all of baseball. He's hit 5 balls, or he hit 5 balls in the series against the Nationals at over 95 miles an hour. He had 1 hit. that does feel to be unlucky, right? So there is definitely a run of like hard luck loser in this situation. It doesn't explain everything. It's not entirely the justification for the fact that he hit 234 across all of April, but I do think there's merit to a guy who's finding rhythm and just running into some issues, right? And because of that, I have more faith in Bryce Harper to bounce back than I would if he was hitting the ball at 88 miles an hour or 90 miles an hour on average, and his hard hit percentages were in the 15th percentile, and he wasn't barreling the baseball, and all of those things, right? If he was doing those things poorly, I would say, we might need to have a real legitimate conversation about this guy. But I do think with all of those things being said, I feel comfortable enough to say he's going to bounce back in a relatively soon fashion. He has had stretches over the course of his career before where they feel like they're insurmountable, where he is, as was brought up in the chat, pressing a little bit, where it feels like he's swinging out of his shoes because he has a violent swing. He's been always consistently in the top 10 percentile of swing velocity, right? And so sometimes it feels like he's jumping a little bit. Sometimes feels like he's swinging violently over the top of a lot of breaking balls, as I said. But he has had those moments where it feels like there's these insurmountable valleys for Bryce Harper. And then, of course, he bounces back to the player that we expect him to be, where he becomes the player of the week or the player of the month. So let's talk about the last couple of years. Last year, Bryce Harper in the March-April combo hit 230, so right about exactly where he's at this year in April. In May, in 2024, he hit 313. In June, he hit 374. He won back-to-back National League Players of the Month in May and June. Let's go back to 2023. He had a bad June. Not a bad June, but a underwhelming June. He hit 253. July, the following month, he hit 303. August, he hit 361. Bryce Harper has had these kind of chasms in his game before, where it looks like he's pressing, it looks like he's struggling. He's swinging through a lot of pitches. His strikeout rates are higher than what they normally are. He's whiffing a ton. And then all of a sudden you see Bryce Harper is 7 for his last 12 with 3 home runs. Bryce Harper hits 361 over a month, wins National League Player of the Year. Bryce Harper hits 374, in the month of June last year, wins National League Player of the Year. So I think you have to take both things into consideration. It is a fact to say Bryce Harper struggled in the month of April. I'm not going to overlook it. I think in times he was a catalyst for their lack of offensive success. I talked a lot about him and Turner and Schwarber in that Mets series where they really, really struggled. And there was a lack of offensive consistency, primarily because their 2 through 5 hitters did not have any sustainable success in that series. I also can say on the same breath, I don't worry about Bryce Harper. If you get to the end of June and he's still hitting 235, we can reevaluate this conversation. But there has been no doubt in my mind throughout the course of his Phillies tenure that bad months have been statistically followed by good months more times than not. And so again, if May is a bad month for him, if June's a bad month for him, if we're heading towards the All-Star break and he's hitting 240, we can reevaluate this conversation for sure. If the whiff rates are still high, and at that point you just say, I need you to put a ball in play and find a soft spot in the outfield, or I'll take a looper base hit, right? Because you just need that catalyst to get kickstarted. But right now, through the first month, he's hitting the ball hard. He's just finding some bad luck, and I think that will change. Again, we can reevaluate at the end of this month, and we'll do it again at the end of June. But for right now, I would expect Bryce Harper to bounce back. And that will pretty much wrap up today's show. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in. I hope you have an enjoyable Friday and an enjoyable weekend. Big thank you to Derek Montia for joining us from the PHNX Diamondbacks Show. Big thank you to Joey for producing. We ran into some technical difficulties today, and he navigated us well. But a big thank you to everybody in the chat. So let's do a little bit of roll call, as the Sixers like to say. Ray Schumacher, Barbara Carroll, K-Red, Player One in the Mad Cats, Filthy McNasty. Where are we at? Let's see who else. Earlier in the show, Philly Sports Enjoyer, Molly and Barkley's Life, K-Red, I think I said already, but K-Red, thank you as well. Everybody that joined the chat, we love you. We thank you. Can't thank you enough for joining us. We'll be back live on Monday. We'll wrap up. We'll take a review of this Arizona Diamondbacks series. We'll get you set for next week. The Phillies take on the Tampa Bay Rays early in the week, followed up by a weekend series in Cleveland against the Cleveland Guardians before getting ready to take on the St. Louis Cardinals the following week. Those are your next 3 series. So we'll preview those series on Monday. We'll wrap up this weekend series. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. I hope you enjoy the beautiful weather tonight. I don't know what it's supposed to look like tomorrow and Sunday, but enjoy the beautiful weather today. I'm getting out of here. I'm going to go sit at a happy hour with my wife and the baby, and we're going to go have a nice, enjoyable lunch. But we'll talk to you on Monday at 1 o'clock right here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. See you Monday.
We all silly like the mayor.